Gavin. All right, now, y'all already know, my name is Richard Beal. I am the Director of Recovery Service for Tenderloin Housing Clinic. And this here is my relapse prevention group. I do this group at 10:30 on Thursdays. And today I just want to say that recovery is an active change in ideas, attitudes, and behaviors. When we talk about relapse prevention, we talk about warning signs. We're talking about triggers. We're talking about the stages of change. We're talking about the disease concept. We're talking about all of these things that are really relevant when it comes to recognizing the disease of addiction and then adding some type of intervention in there and be able to, what I say, see yourself coming. Know what your triggers are. Know what your warning signs are. Being able to look back and say, when did this happen? Look back and say, when did I go from my job not becoming important for me no more? Where I can give myself petty permissions to come in late. When I can start giving myself petty permissions to start going to places, people, places, and things you already know is a trick. We talked about that before. And when I gave myself those petty permissions to go back to the corner and show people how good I look. You know, when I start giving my thinking tell me that it's okay to call people that I used to use with or hang out in areas that I used to use with. Those are warning signs. Those things are what they call triggers. Those things happen, and then cognitively, you don't really recognize that you are in relapse mode, but you're in relapse mode. And so the whole thing about relapse prevention is to be able to recognize the warning signs, recognizing the triggers, knowing when your recovery is in jeopardy. Be able to recognize those things. Y'all heard me say it before. Change is not hard, but it can be hard if you make it hard. But it's the resistance to change that makes change hard. Because people resist change. Change is a normal process. You need to understand that you can change from being caught up into your addiction to being in recovery. Because being in recovery is way more than just abstinence. Abstinence is just one of the things that when it comes to recovery. You know, recovery it can begin by being absent. It can begin like that. But the whole thing is recovery is about an active change in ideas, attitudes, and behavior. You know, and what is the connection between the thinking and the behavior? The connection between the thinking and the behavior is always the feelings and the emotions. You think one way, and then it makes you feel a certain way, and then your emotions come up, and then you act out on that emotion. Okay, you think something and then it made you angry. Then your anger uncontrollable anger is rage. 50 seconds can get you 50 years. Y'all know that. And so you gotta be able to recognize when you're angry and be able to develop some tools to deal with your anger. Same thing with relapse prevention. Same thing with the recognizing your warning signs and your triggers. You gotta learn how to see yourself coming. When you're not washing your clothes no more, when you're not doing your basic necessities no more, when certain bills that you pay and things that you do, your routine that you develop in recovery, it's very important that you stay to that routine. Once you break that cycle, break that routine, you need to ask yourself why. Why I stop calling my sponsor? Why I stop going to my support group? Why I stop doing service? When did I start calling the girl and hanging out with Boo rather than hanging out, with somebody in recovery? Now all of a sudden recovery is not a priority no more. When did that happen? When did that happen? When did recovery come down a notch and then other things come up? Because a lot of times people always say, and I say it too, anything that you put ahead of your recovery, you jeopardize losing it. And so you shouldn't put your job or your girlfriend or your relationship, any of that before your recovery. Because if it wasn't for recovery, you wouldn't have the job, you wouldn't have the relationship, you wouldn't have the connection with the family anymore. And so all of those things is a result of being in recovery and being responsible, productive member of society. So just know, man, that it's important to recognize who you are. You need to understand what are your character defects, what are the things that you do well. You got character assets and you got character defects. Write down the things that you struggle with. If you got anger, you can write them down so you can develop tools to deal with that anger. If you got relationship issues, write them down. If you got financial issues, write them down. And then get into the solution around it. Okay, I got something. Do I need to get a job? Okay, I need to develop my skills. I need to get connected to a training program. Oh, I got some credits in college and I almost completed college. Can I go back to college and get with a career counselor and find out how I need to get my degree? You know, all of these things are some things that we just need to continue to look at and let them not fall by the wayside. Because like I said, you wear, some of y'all wearing a uniform to go to work now, but do you want to turn that uniform in for an orange jumpsuit? I don't think so. I don't think anybody here want to turn their work uniform in for another orange jumpsuit. You know what I'm saying? So to prevent that, what we call, recidivism, to prevent that, you need to be able to identify what's going on with you, identify those warning signs, identify those triggers. So when you see yourself coming, and when you see yourself falling, and when you see yourself relapsing, and because the relapse, the using is just the end of the relapse. The relapse really begins with the thinking. Then it comes with the behavior. You always, because the disease of addiction is based on obsession and compulsion, which is centered in your thinking. You get obsessed about acting out in a certain way, and then when you act out, then you take that drug or whatever you do, you can't stop. And that goes with anything. It don't have to just be drugs. It can be stealing. It can be lying. It can be sex. It can be gambling. It can be a lot of it, because the disease of addiction can manifest itself in many areas. And once you start, it can cause that downward spiral. And the end of it is right caught back up again, using. So I encourage everybody, continue to go to groups, continue to build up a support system, get connected to a mentor. Realize that relapse is a process and recovery is a process. And both of them, you need to recognize when you're in relapse, you need to be able to do the work that keeps you into recovery and be able to stay stable. Continue, develop a program of recovery, a regular routine that you do on a regular basis. Get a home group, a support group. It's important to, like one of y'all said before, that you have an accountability partner. It's good to have an accountability partner. Somebody in the program, because you might not be able to talk to me or one of my staff, but you might be able to talk to one of your peers, and that you can be honest with them. That's great. Be honest with your peer, the person that you're comfortable with. And so it's just really important. So I really want to thank y'all for making the decision to come to New Horizon Transitional Housing Program and Leroy Hooper Graduate Program and any program that you're in when you're making a commitment to better yourself. Really, thank you, and I appreciate you being here.